And now Meredith is mad at Whitney for selling bath bombs. She says, the bath is my thing and everybody knows it. I have a hot take. Quit trying to make the bath happen. Hello and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. I am not going to lie to you. It's been a weird 24 hours. My allergies are back. I mean, I guess they don't just go away, but I thought I was healed. You know, last week I did tell you guys that I was healed. I do have my humidifier in the room, so that's helping. I also just do have like a little cup of joe. I told myself I was going to chill out today. You know, I'm like, I just want to chat with the girls. You know, I don't know if you guys know this, but I take my job very seriously. Okay. But I'm also like recovering type A. Like this podcast, I have a whole script for. It's usually anywhere between like 7 and 10 pages. And today I was like, I just want to chill. I want to get in my little cozy zip up. I want to have a cup of coffee with this mug that my best friend got for me on her wedding day. It says maid of honor for a day, best friend forever, Etsy. You know, the white women love Etsy around here. So that's where I'm at. But the past 24 hours have just been off. Like, I just don't feel like I'm in it, you know? I'm kind of out of it, I guess you could say. If you're not in it, then you're out of it. I went to bed last night with prickly leg syndrome. You guys know what I'm talking about. When you forget to shave, when you're in the shower before you go to bed, and you know, you get into bed and like the thought of getting back up and getting into the shower, I'd rather die. That's how I felt last night. I'd rather die than get back up and shave my legs. But, you know, every time I moved, it was like there was a porcupine in the bed with me. Couldn't even sleep. It was so bad. Imagine how bad it was when I woke up in the morning. And I don't know if you're like me, but like one swift kick of wind and my hair is growing like 3 centimeters at a time. So you can imagine how it was when I woke up this morning. And have you ever started your morning with a bath? Because that's what I did this morning. You know, typically you wake up, you take a shower, you get ready for your day. I'm not a shower girly. I'm a bathtub girly. Meredith Marks. I'm going to get to her later, but I'm a bathtub girly. But I will say I've never taken a bath at 8:30 in the morning until today. And it just set the vibe for the day of weird energy. It set the vibe for low energy, I guess you should say. And I know some people don't like baths because they're like, oh, you're just sitting in your own filth. I would rather sit in my own filth because I take a bath every single night than stand up. So that's just how I feel about it. So just weird, you know, weird energy in the room today, weird energy this week, but we're making it through and we're here to talk about some pop culture. Let's get into the top 3 biggest headlines of the week. Let's start with a Diddy update. So Diddy's kids have broken their silence, specifically about these allegations about their mother, Kim Porter, who died at 47 of pneumonia. So there's been this story circulating this week that a friend found a diary of Kim Porter's and turned it into a book. And it's called Kim's Lost Words, A Journey for Justice from the Other Side. It was published on Amazon on September 6th. And allegedly it was excerpts from her diary. And they have since fueled more conspiracy theories about Diddy, because when Kim Porter died at 47 of pneumonia, when she had lived a pretty healthy life from what the public knew, it was already a bit suspicious, right? Now you take into consideration that there's this big investigation against him, that he's currently locked up, you know, and the conspiracy theories are running rampant again. Well, 4 of Diddy's children released a joint statement together this week. Quincy Brown, Christian Combs, and the twins, Jesse and Delilah Combs, issued this statement on Instagram. You should know that the family is also exploring legal action, says People magazine. So this is what part of the statement says. It says, we have seen so many hurtful and false rumors circulating about our parents, Kim Porter and Sean Combs's relationship, as well as about our mom's tragic passing. that we feel we need to speak out. Claims that our mom wrote a book are simply untrue. She did not, and anyone claiming to have a manuscript is misrepresenting themselves. Please understand that any so-called friends speaking on behalf of our mom or her family is not a friend, nor do they have her best interest at heart. While it is incredibly difficult to reconcile how she could be taken from us too soon, the cause of her death has long been established. We are deeply saddened that the world has made a spectacle of what has been the most tragic event of our lives. Our mother should be remembered for the beautiful, strong, kind, and loving woman she was. So obviously, when you look at it from the kid's perspective, you're going to have a different perspective. And throughout this whole circus, that is what's going on with Diddy right now, you do have to remember that he has children, and any and everything that comes out is affecting those children. Now, that's not the public's fault, right? Because you can't expect the public to just not have a reaction because he has kids, but you also have to imagine what the kids are going through. Everyone is looking at Diddy's whole life differently right now. People are looking at everything differently. You have these celebrity interview clips that keep popping up from Khloe Kardashian, Ashton Kutcher, Chrissy Teigen, Justin Bieber, and everyone is looking at this from a new perspective, and it's making us question things, and that's not going to go away. When you are up against the feds, the feds aren't going to lose. They have a pretty strong case, and the fact that these types of crimes typically don't get done alone, people are going to be more curious about the inner workings of your private life. Now, does that give someone the right to write according to the family, fake book about Kim Porter to make a quick buck? Of course not. But now also people don't know what to believe. The public doesn't know what to believe. They don't believe anything that comes out about Diddy, right? And that now includes his past relationship with Kim Porter. And unfortunately, when you make these types of life decisions and you're in the public eye, it's going to cause people not to trust anything that you say. And this is the type of public treatment that you end up getting. So like I said, you have a little bit of a fine line going on when it comes to the kids being involved. So of course, I told you next week, we're going to be talking about this Diddy story for a long time. Moving on to headline number 2, let's talk about Anna Delvey and her elimination from Dancing with the Stars. Controversial pick, Anna Delvey booted, didn't make it past week 2 of Dancing with the Stars. And people are talking today about her reaction from getting voted off the show. When asked, what are you going to take away from this experience? She says, nothing, which is rude, but Anna Delvey is rude. So what did you expect from her in that moment? I talked about this on the pages earlier this week. Maxim, God, you guys, you don't understand how many YouTube videos I watched learning how to pronounce this guy's last name, and I still can't figure it out. I literally went to about 12 different how to pronounce Maxim Chmerkovskiy. That's just what it's going to be for today. Maxim Chmerkovskiy did an interview that rattled the cages a little bit, talking about how he doesn't like Anna and how he doesn't think that she should have been cast. He said, I get the sensationalism part of it. They always do want to cast a controversial figure. The one that comes to mind of previous seasons was Olivia Jade, right off the heels of the college admissions scandal. But he said, there are other people who you can make that controversial pick with other people besides Anna Delvey. And he said, she's just not a good dancer. And I don't chalk it up to her being nervous, because do you think she was nervous when she was scamming billionaires for, millions of dollars? Sure, she had to be a little bit nervous, but she had to act confident. So he just was like, I think she is a bad dancer. Well, I honestly think that if Anna Delvey could have dropped the persona for 3 minutes, while she was on the dance floor or even in her interviews, she would have had a chance. Look, people love a redemption story, right? But I think she had to keep up the facade. And I can't tell if she keeps the facade up as a defense mechanism, because as she was getting judges' feedback from her dance, I feel like there were tears welling up in her eyes a little bit. So I started to see a glimmer of, somebody with emotions in there. But at the end of the day, she's like Kanye West, when she's caught smiling, she quickly changes her tune and wipes the smile off of her face. And the judges were saying the same thing to her, like, drop the act. We want to see the real Anna Sorokin. But she couldn't do it. Is that because she's been this character for so long that she actually believes that's who she is now? Or is it because that actually is who she is? I would argue that it's the first, because this isn't who she is. She's not this socialite heiress. That was a made up persona. Sure, she had to sell it, but that's not who she was. It was fake. So, say what you want about her, but she is intriguing. There's no denying it. And she just wasn't really a great dancer. So that's all there is to it. Tori Spelling also got eliminated this week, which I was kind of surprised. She wasn't the best dancer, but I felt like she had a strong fan base. I could be wrong in that. Look, I'm not like really a 90210 person. So if that's not the case, let me know. Let's move on to our third and final headline. And this one's coming out of the Golden Bachelorette. So why have we talked more about restraining orders in the Bachelor franchise the past week than we have in the entire 20-year tenure that this show has been on television? I don't know. But a contestant that is on the Golden Bachelorette also had a restraining order filed against him, but the show says they will edit him out. So his name is Gil Ramirez, and allegedly has a history of stalking, according to the request for restraining order obtained by People magazine. So his ex-girlfriend was granted a temporary restraining order against him on June 11th. Jones' season started filming on June 20th, according to Reality Steve. So here for the wrong reasons, obviously. You can't be stalking an ex on June 11th and then get ready to fall in love and marry Joan on June 20th. Talk about here for the wrong reasons, but also who's getting a restraining order a week and a half before you jet off to, how stupid can men be? Honestly, men. Honestly, the audacity that are these men that don't have any working brain cells. So a source close to the show says that Gil will be further edited, his already limited screen time, and minimized him in promotional assets moving forward. The source also says that the restraining order was granted in the brief period between completion of our thorough background investigation and exhaustive vetting process. Now, this is interesting because that terminology tells me that this is someone from the inside. This is a production girly or guy, because it says through our background investigation. And I'm always a little weary when it's like this source close to the situation says, because you don't actually know how close they are to the situation. But the fact that they're taking ownership of this and saying this is somebody on production, which also makes me think that all of the other stories that came out is somebody in production, right? So sometimes I feel like the Bachelor franchise likes to bury their head in the sand, like with the Devin stuff, right? They never came out and had an official statement or anything. And I feel like they want us to think that they're not paying attention, that they're so focused on filming The Bachelor or the Golden Bachelorette or whatever, that they just don't have time to talk about the drama. They're watching what we're saying. They're watching what I'm saying. They probably hate me because I call their show a snooze fest all the time. But anyways, what this means is that it didn't show up on production's background check because it hadn't happened yet. So he's going through this casting process. I guess the ex is in the back of his mind. He gets cast on the show. Everything's clear. They're ready to go. June 11th, he starts blowing his ex-girlfriend up on the cellular phone. So it says here that his ex was granted the restraining order, signing harassment. And this is the quote: "Despite telling him not to contact me, come to my house, he made the repeated unwanted contact with me, family members, and friends. 25 attempts daily via phone, text, video. Although lives an hour away, showed up at places I frequent to confront me on a daily basis." So she claimed in a request for the restraining order, alleging that the behavior had lasted at least 2 weeks. Now, I feel like what happened with Devin last week prepared the Bachelor franchise for this moment, right? However, at the time when all the Devin stuff came out, there was really nothing you could do about the situation. The season was already over. He had won. He had bamboozled us all. Like, truly, do we even know who Devin Strader is? I don't. But I feel like, there was a lot of pushback from that, from Bachelor Nation. And then to turn around immediately and have this happen again, I feel like that made them ready for swift action, right? Where they say, look, this guy, he's going to be edited out of the season completely. He already wasn't a front runner. He wasn't winning. He wasn't stealing Joan's heart. So like, it is what it is. Bye. See you later. I'm interested in what would have happened if he would have gone far. Like, imagine he went to Fantasy Suites. What would they have done? I have no idea. That would have been interesting to see. All right, let's move on to this week's deep dive. I want to talk about the premiere of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City because, and I know we had another episode last night, but premiere week last week when it came to Survivor, The Golden Bachelorette, Salt Lake City, Dancing with the Stars, I feel like Salt Lake City took the cake. I feel like they had the best season premiere out of all of the new shows that dropped last week. It starts very cinematic, right? There's these drone shots. The cast are breaking the fourth wall, talking about sharing their lives on camera. And you have Heather, Whitney, Lisa, Meredith, Mary, Angie, and Bronwyn. I believe that's the whole cast. If I'm missing somebody, sorry. But they're saying we're all bonded by this traumatic stuff that we go through by putting our family out there on public display, by talking about our traumas, acting a fool sometimes at birthday parties and such, fighting about bath bombs and scrolls. We put it all out there, and sometimes it turns us against each other. But more oftentimes than not, it brings us back together in the long run. But, they say sometimes the circle turns on you, and they're literally standing in a circle and it's looking a little culty. They're like looking up at the sky with these sunglasses on. And we're like, okay, like, you guys, you're not in a cult. Let's reel it in a little bit. But, you have Heather Gay looking pretty in pink, although she's like sitting in front of her green screen. She's got her cute little pink shirt on, and then she's got her camo leggings on. But honestly, I'm here for it because I'm doing the exact same thing right now. I mean, I know that I already look a bit like a gremlin. I'm not trying to impress y'all by any stretch of the imagination. I'm in my old Navy fleece, but I am wearing pajama pants. You just can't see them. So honestly, I'm not mad about it. It's relatable. I wouldn't want to be sitting there in Bronwyn's outfits, which we'll talk about later. But Angie K is holding the center snowflake this year, and that sent me over the edge in a good way. I live for Angie K, our Greek mafia queenie. I feel like I like Angie because she doesn't try too hard. I mean, she did bring a scroll, so that kind of is a little try hard, but I don't know. I just feel like she brings a fresh energy, and the fact that she's the center after 2 seasons, she's going to take the cake this year. So we start the season with a group event, Lisa's Bezos party. And I'm just going to embarrass myself. And I'm probably going to get a nasty 1-star review talking about how uncultured I am. But I had no idea what Bezos meant. I thought they were talking about Jeff Bezos. I was like, well, that's weird. Why are they having an Amazon party? I know. Idiot. Hello. Get out more, Morgan. I Googled it and realized that it means kisses in a different language. It's escaping me right now. Maybe Italian? I don't know, but it means little kisses. And that was a relief, that they weren't throwing a Jeff Bezos party. And I know that's something that I need to work on myself. Anyways, I got it eventually. A lot of flashbacks throughout the episode as well, and you can tell it's a flashback based on a grayscale. Even though they did the grayscale, I was a little confused sometimes, and I just think that while I love the storytelling on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, I feel like sometimes it gets hard to follow when they do that because you're talking about one thing at one particular moment, and then you're talking about another thing, and then they show a flashback, and it's like supposed to add context, but it just confuses me. I don't know. I still liked it. But the first little flashback that we get is Lisa, Angie, and Heather, and they're talking about Whitney. Everyone seems to have issue with Whitney at the current moment. Lisa's mad at Whitney because she went on the Viall Files. You could end the sentence there. Like, I'm just saying. But anyways, Nick is eating that up. He's eating it up. Oh, I'm on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. You can tell he's never even watched a freaking episode before. But anyways, she's mad because Whitney was calling her the villain. I mean, Whitney, you had Monica and Jen Shaw, but Lisa is the villain. Sure. Bronwyn enters the chat and she makes a statement. She's a fashionista. She's married to an older man. It's too early to tell, but I just don't personally trust somebody that wears hot shorts in 37 degrees. I'm from Northeast Ohio, okay, where 6 months out of the year, it's 40 degrees or lower. And if I'm wearing my underwear out in 37 degrees, I'm a socio. So I don't know what to think about Bronwyn at this particular moment. She says her aesthetic is funny chaos. We will see about that. She has a husband who is 65. She is 38. Can we just have a real chat for a second, okay? And don't get offended, okay? Because I love you. And if you're in one of these relationships, I would love to talk to you because we're also going to get a little bit morbid for a second. But anytime I see these types of relationships with this big of an age gap, I'm like, do people not consider what their life is going to be like 30 years from now? Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, look at Erica Jane. She did that, right? And I'm just like, maybe it's because I've never fallen in love with somebody that's 30 years older than me. But I'm just thinking, like, at age 50, when hopefully I'm in my, like, MILF prime, am I going to want to be taking care of my 80-year-old husband? No, I'm going to want to be jet setting off to Santorini with all the money that I made the past 50 years. So that's just always what I find intriguing. Like, I want to know, do these people think 30 years down the road? If you are in one of these types of relationships, please DM me because I am very curious what that is like. Anyways, like I said, Whitney is really, there's ominous music anytime Whitney is on the screen, which lets you know there's mad drama with her. She's in the car. It's like borderline Jaws music, dun, dun, she's pulling up to the Bezos party. And while Whitney is on her way, we also get introduced to another new character, Brittany. There's like a little sit-down moment with Mary, Bronwyn, and Brittany. Mary says, "Who is this?" I feel that because really, who is this? She's introduced as Heather's friend, but I don't really get the involvement. She calls Bronwyn's coat a costume. She calls Mary a hoarder. She calls her formerly poor. But I will say, the funniest moment I thought of the whole episode is when Brittany is talking about how she used to put rolls in her purse. And Mary says she had to do it recently because when you're little, you don't have a purse. I'm like, that's actually a great point. That's actually a great point by Mary. There's a lot to resolve with Meredith. She feels like last season people were accusing her of being an Instagram troll. But then all the attention got flipped on Monica, and she didn't really get to address any of the things that were said against her last season. And now Meredith is mad at Whitney for selling bath bombs. She says, the bath is my thing, and everybody knows it. I have a hot take. Quit trying to make the bath happen. It's not going to happen. The bath is not to Meredith Marks what the bed is to Paige DeSorbo. It's just not the same. These types of things have to happen organically. And when you try to push it, stop trying to make fetch happen. Meredith, I love ya, the rumors and the nastiness, but she says it's an attack on me that Whitney wants to sell bath bombs. It's dramatic. There are enough bath bombs to go around in the world. There's space for everybody in the bath bomb industry. There's not a shortage of bath bombs. And then in the middle of the bath bomb fight, you have Angie come up with a scroll. How do these women fight about these things with such a straight face? Bath bombs, being in the Greek mafia. Did you read what was on the scroll? The scroll said, Meredith suggested that I was involved in organized crime. It said, encouraging someone to sue me and take my home just in time for the holidays, Christmas at the soup kitchen. The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City love a prop, and they love to fight about the most ridiculous things. And that's why we love them, I fear. That's why we love them. And sometimes you have to evaluate yourself on that, because I'm eating it up and they're fighting about bath bombs. But anyways, the big sit down at the Kisses party turns into a screaming match. It starts with Lisa and Whitney about the podcast. And Whitney is like, you can't lie about your feelings, Lisa. And Lisa's like, you lied. You're a liar. And Whitney's like, what did I lie about, Lisa? It's my feelings. You're a villain. That's how I feel. And, Lisa never really does give a solid example of what Whitney was lying about. I just think that anytime Whitney says anything about Lisa in general, it's a trigger for her because of the jazz tickets conversation. Right. So it's just a trigger. She's like, I never lied. And it gets a cackle out of Heather because she's like, girl, you lied about the whole book situation. And we remember the book situation. Heather's like, I sat you down like we were at kindergarten story time, Whitney, and I read you word for word what I wrote about you in the book. And then you said I was exploiting your sexuality. Then Meredith chimes in and says, you accused me of lying about my father's memorial. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos at the Kisses party. And Lisa clocks Whitney here when she says, in your healing journey, you think you're superior to us. You want us to act in a certain way. I'm me. Take it or leave it. And Whitney's like glaring. Oh, she's glaring so hard at her. And Lisa says, I'm not on the same journey. And Whitney goes, maybe you should be. And then Hild Whitney gives her the bird and then flies away like a bird. She puts that little fluffy jacket on and she is out the door. She's like, I'm not going to sit here and be called a liar. And she walks out with Angie K. And that was episode 1, folks. And I loved it. And you know what? Not one single person had to say a word about missing Monica Garcia or Jen Shaw. Now, we're not going to get happy, okay? Because there's still a long way to go. And we've seen great season premieres before, and then the rest just trails off. But I thoroughly enjoyed episode 1. And here's to hoping that we have a fantastic season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Last but certainly not least, we're going to get into MomTok updates. And I have to tell you, when I have to talk about these things with a straight face, like the word MomTok, and I'm being serious, it's just starting to get too much. It's starting to get too much for me. I don't know how much longer I can do it and take it like super seriously. Like, how will MomTok survive this? I don't know. But Whitney did this interview with the Squeeze, which are the Taylors Lautners, because his name is Taylor Lautner and he married his wife whose name was Taylor. So they're both Taylor Lautners now. And they're on the Squeeze. And this podcast interview starts with Taylor Lautner 1 saying, Whitney, like, I didn't really want to have you on this podcast because there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. And this is not a clickbait. They're pretty much saying we're not a Nick Viall podcast. This isn't a clickbait podcast. This isn't a tabloid podcast. This is a mental health podcast. And we don't want to exploit you for clicks. And then they're like, but you know what? Everybody's story deserves to be heard. And like, good for them. I'm just so glad that Whitney didn't go on the Viall Files. Like, I'm so glad that they went somewhere else. Although I do have to say, I was sitting down watching it on TV and David, the husband, came downstairs. And he was like, is that the Viall Files? And I was like, no. And he was like, why does it look exactly the same? Why do they have the same branding colors, that deep olive green with the wood background? I'm like, oof, you're right. it does kind of look very similar. And that's interesting. Okay, anyways. Basically, she said that the pilot was filmed and then 2 years went by, which we were all kind of confused because we're like, this doesn't seem like it's happening. We knew there was some time, but we didn't know how much time. 2 years is kind of crazy. But Whitney also said, when everyone was doing press at the beginning, when the show was coming out, they hadn't actually seen it yet. And I remember listening to when all 12 of them were on the Val Files and you couldn't hear a word anybody was saying. I was like, have they seen the show? Because this isn't making any sorts of sense. And it turns out that they hadn't at that point seen the show. But there were some wrongs, I guess, that Whitney wanted to set right. One of which being the Fruity Pebble story. So that to me was like the most damning scene for Whitney when she gets mad at Demi for Demi getting mad at her. I'm like, okay. If that was my friend, I'd be like, okay, this is how you feel about it. I need to shut up. I need to apologize. But Whitney was like mad that Demi was mad. Well, according to Whitney, it's because she had talked to Demi about it before and said, I called her up, asked for her permission to do this prank on camera, and she gave me the green light. So when I did it and she had this opposite reaction on camera, it kind of felt like she was setting me up. It kind of felt like it was a little bit of sabotage. Not only that, when they get in the big fight in Park City and they're all at the dinner table and Whitney's like crying and walking out with toilet paper on her shoe, and we're thinking it's just because of the truth box fight or whatever, right? She says, no, Demi actually said something on camera, told a story about me that was very personal, very vulnerable, that I didn't really want out there. I'm paraphrasing, okay, but you guys get it. I didn't really want out there. And I didn't know that she said it until Macy came up to me and said, hey, is this true? Demi told this story. Is it true? And so that's where that reaction was coming from. That's where me being uncomfortable, me crying was coming from. It wasn't because of this stupid fight about the truth box. It was because I had learned that Demi shared this story about me on camera and I didn't know. And that was the catalyst that made me leave the group chat. So a lot of context, and of course, 3 sides to every story, but a lot of context that was missing from the show about Whitney's actions and why she made the decisions that she made. But what else? At the beginning of the season, right? I think it was in the pilot episode when they sit down at the coffee shop and they're saying, Taylor, why did you make that video? It's edited in a way that makes the viewer think they're talking about the I'm a swinger video, like the whole live that rocked the internet. And she said, no, I wasn't actually talking about that video. I was talking about a video that Taylor posted that insinuated Macy was the only person there for her during this hard time. And she said, me and Michaela were sitting there being like, we were here for you throughout this whole swinger scandal. And she said, that's why the press doesn't make any sense because, the press was asking me, how are you and Taylor? How did you feel about the scandal? And she's like, yeah, I wanted to be supportive of her. I wanted to be there for her. And everyone was like, that's not what we saw in the show. It just, none of it was making any sense. And she's like, that's when I realized like, this is not going to go down the way that I remember it. That was pretty much the gist of it. Let's move on to Dakota and Taylor, because there's been all these rumors that Dakota and Taylor broke up, which a lot of it was like very clickbaity. Basically, Dakota and Taylor are the worst couple that you knew in college. That go out on a Thursday, fight, break up for the weekend, get back together on Monday. And they do it like for the entire 4 years of their college experience. They get a dog together and you're like, why are you doing this to yourself? You guys are going to break up again on Thursday. And then you just never end up together, but you went through all this stuff. And it's easier said than done to walk away from a relationship like that. You can say it to somebody until you're blue in the face, but they have to get it. Like, they have to experience it, and they won't make a decision until they experience that for themselves. But what Taylor says in all of these interviews is, we're not fully broken up, but we're not fully together. Which to me says that they got in a fight and she's not ready to completely end the relationship, that they're like texting back and forth, but that they don't know where it's going to go. We've all been there, right? We've all been like on the rocks, and we don't want to officially come out and say, this is it. But, all of the headlines are making it seem like they are broken up. They're like on a break, I want to say. But she was like, I am heartbroken. I don't really know how to navigate it. I don't know how we're going to end up. But I don't know. That's none of my business. I say, as I do a whole final thoughts about it. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about Jen and Zach, because Jen got on Instagram last week and was defending her man. She wrote the world's longest Instagram caption. And when people say those couples that write the longest Instagram captions hate each other the most, I don't know if I subscribe to that belief, because I wrote a long caption or two in my day. But if you want to believe it, now would be the time to apply it. I skimmed it, and I'm going to tell you the important parts, okay? So she says, we were just kids when we got married. We are polar opposites. We were polar opposites. How could we make this work? How could we see the same picture? We don't always see eye to eye, and we still don't always see eye to eye, but we keep trying, and I truly believe there's lessons we both need to learn. She says, I couldn't have done anything in my life without Zach. I know it seems like, and I'm paraphrasing Queen today, Queenie. She says, I know it seems like I'm the one supporting Zach and whatever, but up until this point in our life, Zach has supported me to get here, and now the roles are reversing. She says, I couldn't have done any of this without Zach. Is Zach perfect? No. Does he have flaws that we need to address? Yes. But I can confidently say he supported and believed in me more than anyone else. She says, we're still young. We have 2 babies. We struggle like any marriage, but we love each other. We're willing to put in the work. Have there been moments I wanted to walk away? Yes, but there's more to our marriage and what we offer than people realize. She says, thank you to everyone who's shown us love and support, whether you know us personally or not, no matter what the world may say. I truly believe that God knows what's best for me, my family, and my marriage, period. Hot take, but there are exceptions, okay? But I do believe that when you decide to marry somebody and you decide to have a family with somebody, that you need to do what you can to make it work. Like I said, there are exceptions, and I'm sure you all know what those exceptions are. I don't need to sit here and explain it to you. But I feel like, you should try to make it work. And Zach has been painted as the villain. The truth of the matter is we see probably 15 minutes of what their however many years of marriage has been like. Like she said, is there stuff that they need to work on? Sure. We don't know how bad it is, really, right? We saw what we saw. It was pretty bad. I mean, threatening to divorce your wife over going to a Chippendale show with her girlfriends when she didn't even really want to be there is pretty bad, right? But if she's willing to work on it with him, and if he's willing to take accountability, that's what I want to know. I want to know if they're in couples counseling, if they're in therapy together, and he's taking accountability for his actions. If he is, people can grow. I know some people don't think that they can, but I do think that people can grow. I do think that people can change. We'll have to see. I mean, there's times that I've said this and I've wanted to give couples and marriages the benefit of the doubt, and it ended badly. But time will tell. And in the meantime, you can have your opinion. But like I said, don't leave it in their comment section. Leave it in my DM section. Okay. That was fun. I just spitballing today. I was going to say free balling. I'm not doing that right now. And my mother listens to this podcast and she would be mad at me for saying that. But anyways, leave a review, a little 5-star boop, a little love you like a sis. If you haven't got a love you like a sis hoodie yet, fall is right around the corner. Actually, it's here. Fall is here. It's raining, baby. We're playing Hillary Duff, Come Clean. We're staring out the window as the rain falls down. We're wearing the love you like a sis crew neck that comes in white and black. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You need to get it. morganspoptalks.com. Browse merch, okay? If you're a Love You Like a Sis Patreon member, you get a discount code. And if you can't remember it, DM me and I'll tell you, okay? I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend, whenever it is that you're listening to this. I'll see you back next week for another episode of MPT. And as always, love you like a sis. Bye.